All right. Hello, everybody. It is Cory. I'm just a little bit early, and the reason that I popped in early is to make sure that everything's working correctly, make sure that y'all can see me. So if y'all can hear me, say hi. Can y'all hear me? Robert Lee Berker on Instagram says hello. Awesome. All right, looks like everybody can hear me. Rad. Okay. So hello, there's so many of you. Wendy, and so many names that I recognize. Tom Harold, Wendy Meaties. So we are simulcasting in 3 different places today. So if you see me looking away from this screen and over to this screen, kind of looking back and forth, I wish you could see the setup that we have here. I've got my computer over here with my presentation on it, and I've got a second screen so that I can view my presentation better. I've got my iPhone set up over here. We're live casting to Instagram, and we're going to be talking about how to build communities around your art that help you sell your art and create a career. We're going to go live with that training here in just a second. I will be talking on Instagram as well, and as you also watch this on Facebook Live. If you are on Crowdcast right now, you're watching and you registered on Crowdcast, you'll be able to watch the recording later. It looks like everybody can hear me. If you can't hear me, Brandy says I have no audio, you'll want to exit and come back on. Oh, did the audio cut out? Okay, let's try this one more time. If you can hear me, say hello. All right, can you hear me now? Okay, a lot of you can hear me. Okay, awesome. Well, let's jump right into it then. Cool, thanks so much, everybody. We are going to, you should be able to see my second screen. Katie Kenny says hello. So I'm super excited. There are 926 people registered for this webinar, this training. So I'm gonna do my very best to do it justice as we dive into community building for artists. All right. So in addition to my screen here and my phone here, I've also got my iPad out. So yeah, you probably won't be able to see me during the length of the presentation, but I'll be here. If you're watching on Crowdcast, you won't be able to see me, but Susie, again, if you have no sound, go ahead and hit reload. You should be able to hear it. You should be able to watch it there. I'm gonna have to take a picture of my setup later because this is hilarious. All right, so today we're talking about community building for artists. And what does that mean? We'll dive right into it. But really my goal here today is to help all of you understand how to make sure that your art sells, specifically by building a group of people around you who are helping you, pushing you, encouraging you, and holding you accountable. That's what I mean by community. All right, so being an artist can be an isolating and lonely, frustrating experience. We've all been in this situation where we are working to, we're making whatever the new thing is, either painting or a sculpture or a new piece of music or whatever. That time requires being alone with our thoughts so that we can write it down, paint it, create it in whatever means we do that. So that alone time is great for making art, but it's really challenging for running an art business. And so all of us artists, we run this dichotomy in our lives where we need to go alone into the creative cave for some period of time and then emerge to hand our thing off to the world. And today what I want to talk about is that going out into the world and communicating and talking and building community around us. It takes a lot of energy to go out and make sales and talk to people. And that's true, by the way, for not just artists. That's true for anybody who makes a thing. Whether you make software or you make something else, art or crafts or whatever, going out into the world and saying, hey, do you want this thing I made? I hope you like it. That is a scary and challenging experience for all of us. And many artists find that they don't necessarily have somebody to talk to about it. And if that's true for you, say, hey, let me know over in the comments. Just say, yeah, that's a challenge that I have and that I'd like to figure out how to solve. So if you don't live in New York City or don't live in San Francisco, it can be hard to find other professional artists to interact with and to do things with. And even if you do live in one of the big cities, it can still be a little bit of a challenge. So once you sort of get over the hump of making your first couple of sales, you find that it's still, you need help. Like piecing it together bit by bit and kind of hammering away at it until something cracks is a really frustrating way of being. And so sometimes we'll go out and we'll hire business coaches. Kenny says, yes, absolutely. And down on the Jersey Shore, tough to find that community. Yeah, tons of people. Heather S says, yeah, it's a challenge. So glad you're talking about this. Sarah G says, just posted about how hard it can be to make art and feel like I'm making a difference on Facebook and Instagram yesterday. Yeah, Sarah Guthrie, thank you. And so how do we get out of this sense of isolation? And so a lot of us will go and try to find business coaches, right? That's one thing that people come to me as a business coach and they'll say, hey, Cory, can you just be there for me to talk to and bounce ideas off of? And that works as far as it goes, right? Like hiring a business coach can be helpful. A lot of artists don't have access to an art-specific business coach. And so understanding even what the business coach is talking about, like the language that they use, the marketing language can be really alienating and uncomfortable. I'll show you in a minute. We'll talk a little bit about why marketing language actually has a lot in common with artistic language, but a lot of times we call things different names. We call the same thing encountered by marketers and artists and other groups. Everybody calls it something different, but in the end, it's often the same thing. So a lot of marketers talk about engagement and response levels and things like that. And as artists, we might actually just say, we might call it just having conversations, right? So I want to demystify some of that language that happens here today. John Delaney says, I get plenty of likes, but then I hear crickets when sales are concerned. Yeah, people like to give you high fives and give you likes and stuff, but getting to the point where this inconsistency problem goes away is a real challenge, right? Like you can spend years figuring out how to sell your art and get, you might have, I just talked to an artist this morning who she's been struggling for months, and then just this month in July had a $7,000 month. And she's so excited. And so we ended up spending the bulk of the time talking about, okay, how do you get away from these boom and bust cycles? And we'll address some of that today too. So getting past these boom and bust cycles, I want to talk a little bit, in order to start to address that, I want to talk a little bit about something that I call the lower art market. If you've ever heard of the lower art market, then this will be familiar to you. A few years ago, I threw this graphic together. I thought it was hilarious. So what we think of as the art world is mostly the newspapers like the New York Times and Hyperallergic magazine and stuff, talking about high-end auctions, talking about Christie's and Sotheby's, talking about the blue chip galleries, like there's like 25 to 50 galleries. And that's where all of the attention goes. So unless you're part of that upper echelon of the art world where art's selling for $100,000 or $1 million or whatever, you will often feel like we're not, or we will often feel like we're not part of that community, right? Sharon Bomber says, I'm a traveling plein air artist and new places every time. It's difficult to build a community. Yeah, absolutely. That's a great point, Sharon. Yeah. Ronnie says we need to find other artists that we can relate to. Yeah, so who do we relate to? We tend to relate to other artists like us who are not, you know, if you're not in the big time art galleries or in the New York Times or whatever, who are the people? And this glacier image I love so much, because if you're not familiar with the way glaciers work, usually only the very tip of the glacier is above the water in the ocean, right? And 90% of the glacier is usually like hanging out underneath the surface of the water. And that is the art world. People who shop for art online, they buy directly from the artists, they buy art at retail stores, or they license art. There's a lot of art that's happening below the surface, right? Taylor says, I find the artists I can relate to the most in the UK. And now I happen to know that Taylor's based in Nevada in the United States. So yeah, absolutely. Like a lot of times we find people outside of our immediate circle, thanks for all the hearts on Instagram, guys, who are, you know, those people outside, those people that we relate to are not necessarily in our immediate physical vicinity. So let's talk a little bit more about the lower art market. So this data is all from the Hickox online art trade report, or the art trade report, not online art trade report, just the art trade report. And in 2016, there was about $45 billion worth of art sold. That is so much money, like $45 billion. That's a lot of money, right? So half of that 45 billion, or a little more than half, were those sales that happen at the big auction houses, the Christie's and Sotheby's and the big art galleries and stuff. But the other $20 billion that is sold by artists like us, artists who don't sell their work necessarily for $100,000, maybe $5,000 or $10,000, or even just a few $100s. But that's $20 billion worth of art sold just in 2016 by the lower art market, right? So what does that look like? What does it look like? Who are the lower art market? These are coming from artist entrepreneurs. They're individual artists who have decided that they're going to take control of their own destinies and learn how to run a business. So if you're watching us over on Crowdcast, by the way, if you're on Instagram or Facebook and you want to like register for the recording and see what we're seeing over on Crowdcast, you can head over to crowdcast.io and look for The Abundant Artist, and you can see what we're seeing here. So the first artist that I want to talk about in the lower art market is Gwen Siemel. I've talked about her a lot if you follow our stuff. I won't spend a ton of time on all these artist bios, but I just want to give you an idea of what a working artist looks like. Yeah, Weekday Best over on Instagram says the working artist. That's a great way of saying it. Gwen Siemel is a painter. She does commission work. She has this awesome series called Crime Against Nature that's done very well. You know, regular commissions, 5 to 10 grand range. You know, she's done some public art projects, but she's not like super famous, right? Matt Richards, good friend of mine. Up until last week, we lived just a couple of blocks away from each other. And Matt has just an incredible amount of work that is in private collection and in corporate collections all over the world. He's a kinetic sculptor, so he makes big pieces. We're talking 40-foot sculptures in the style of Alexander Calder, sort of that kind of stuff. And Matt, even though he's never been written up by Hyperallergic or the New York Times, he does very well. He owns a house in downtown Portland, Oregon. He's got a wife and a couple of kids, and he's got several studio employees. And you know, he's just a regular working artist who's doing really, really well. Kelly Ray Roberts, if you've ever done any sort of mixed media classes online, you've probably heard of Kelly Ray. $15 million worth of art sold over the last 10 years or so. Very successful artist. Again, not in the galleries and the big art news. Amira Rahim, another great example of an artist who she's a painter, acrylic painter. She travels a lot. If you follow her, she'll be in Mexico and Cuba and other places. I love seeing what she does. 50,000 followers on Instagram. So these are regular artists who are not working in what we call the fine art world galleries and auction houses, but are still doing really well financially. Tom Harold says, Matt's sculptures are very cool. Yeah, absolutely. So these artists and other artists like Tom are great examples of how the art market is shifting. I saw in the comments before we got started, somebody from France said that people in France generally don't sell their own work. And I'll push back against that a little bit, because there are some great French artists who are selling their work online. And there's a big shift happening worldwide. The United States is sort of at the front of it, but Sebastian Rango Art says, hey. That same art trade report that I mentioned earlier from Hickox mentioned that 39% of people who buy art say that social media influenced their decision. That is crazy. That is a huge amount. And it pretty closely corresponds with the number of artists with the lower art market, right? So basically there's a huge number of artists who, a huge number of buyers who are using social media to figure out what kind of art they want to buy, which means that it's your opportunity to get your name out there, to get the word out there about what you do. And these articles from Ad Age Magazine and Forbes basically saying people are looking for experiences, right? So people are so intimidated by galleries. They walk into an art gallery, it's kind of sterile, there's big white walls everywhere, and there's giant price tags on the art. There's no context for why it costs that much. They don't get to meet the artist. They don't see anything about how the art is made. People want to experience the artist. They want to have a connection to the artist. They want to understand who the artist is and what they're thinking as they're creating the work. There's a culture change happening all over the world. And if you're watching this, you're at the forefront of that culture change. And there's data to back this up. And the funny thing is, the art world, you know, that top $25 billion out of $45 billion in art sold last year, is completely unprepared for this paradigm shift. And this is where there's a real opportunity for artists. Thank you to Tara for helping people with their sound issues. There's a real opportunity for people, for you, the individual artist in the lower art market, for creating culture change in the fine art industry. So as many of you know, a lot of art galleries have gone out of business. Since 2007, it's about 25% of all galleries. Yeah. Eric Christopher Jackson says, Instagram is becoming my best outlet to introduce my work globally. Yeah, so it's a great point. 39% of art galleries have no plan to use e-commerce, which means what's going to happen is all of the people shopping online are going to start moving away from art galleries and towards e-commerce experiences. So a handful of galleries, probably about 20% of them, are planning to build and partner, essentially build an e-commerce site with a third party that they're going to embed on their site somehow. And then another 26% are going to use some sort of e-commerce partner where an art gallery will work with a partner to sell their art online, but they won't be selling it online directly. And then another 15% or so are going to build and partner, which means they're going to build their own e-commerce and sell through somebody else. And so I expect that this 39% number will shrink as more galleries go out of business because they're not selling online. But this is some crazy stuff that I wanted to share with you. And this is a report from this year. This is current up-to-date data, which kind of blows my mind. So where and John Delaney said, this is a great comment. So where the gallery would find the collector, it now falls on the artist to find them. Yes, absolutely true. Yeah. And here's the other crazy fact, Don. In 2016, more retail businesses, brick and mortar retail businesses, went out of business than in the 2008 financial crisis. But the reason we don't have, the reason the economy is not crashing is because at the same time that all of those brick and mortar businesses went away, e-commerce went up 40 billion. So there's this massive shift from people buying stuff offline to people buying stuff online? Tammy says, so how do we do that? Great question, Tammy. Let's talk about it. And before I dive into some other stuff, I just want to highlight just real quick a couple of other challenges that are pretty common. Christina says, where do you find your statistics? I've been trying to find dollar amounts to provide for people who have been trying to discourage me from building an art business. So Christina, all the statistics that I provide in this presentation, I'm going to make this presentation downloadable, and there's statistics cited throughout. You'll see little notes in there. But all those numbers that I was just talking about are from, it's called the Hiscox Online Art Trade Report, which will give you all those numbers, and you can dive into that. We'll talk about, I want to get to all of your questions. So most of your questions I'm going to hold until the end. So if you do have questions, feel free to, if you're over on Crowdcast, pop those questions into Crowdcast, and I'll make sure that we get to as many of your questions as possible at the end. All right, so professional artist groups. So I love the professional artist groups, you know, the Watercolor Society, the Society of American Mosaic Artists. You know, Sama has had me out a couple times to talk to their group. These associations are awesome for helping you get better at your craft, helping you connect with some other artists, so you have a social circle of artists. One of the problems that I see is a lot of the associations don't have a focus on helping their artists sell. So some of them do juried shows, right? Like they do 1 or 2 juried shows a year where they invite the community to come out and look at the artist's work. But the focus is not on learning how to sell. And I'm not trying to rag on professional artist associations. I think they're great. They serve a purpose, but teaching their members how to sell is, for most of them, not their purpose. There's some other challenges too, legal challenges. So companies, large corporations, in this case, so Lisa Congdon I can't remember exactly what year it was, but a couple of years ago, Lisa Congdon had her artwork, her illustrations ripped off by a designer by the name of Cody Foster, who sold that work to West Elm, Anthropology, and some other stores. And this was a huge deal. It got picked up by Jezebel and Boing Boing and a bunch of other blogs with millions and millions of followers. And it turned into this thing where you know, everybody was talking about it and blogging about it and tweeting about it. But the reality is that this kind of stuff happens all the time. Large corporations like West Elm, Anthropology, and others, you know, they buy a lot of art. They license images, they buy designs, they have their acquisitions teams go out and find artists whose work they can buy. But sometimes they buy it from the wrong person. They buy it from an artist who's stealing from somebody else, or they don't properly, you know, they don't get a contract in place with the artist, or they don't buy the work and they just steal it. And then they go through a whole cycle. And this happens regularly. And then another big challenge for a lot of artists is insurance. So artists have to purchase, and I'm talking about just in the United States here, artists have to purchase their health insurance on the individual market, which is a big disadvantage over other professions. So if you are an employee, if you work for a large company, then they will provide your health insurance for you as a benefit. Or if you work for a little bit smaller company, they'll provide you access to health insurance. You know, if they have like 1,000 employees, then you get into a risk pool where everybody gets together and they do group buying of insurance. That doesn't work for most artists because they don't have employers. They are working for themselves, which means they're essentially buying off the shelf without any group discounts. And that's a huge challenge for artists. So with these challenges, how have artists handled some of these challenges in the past? So for the last, I want to say year or so, I've been reaching out to artist associations, groups, little groups up to big groups all over the country. I've been traveling a lot and doing workshops, talking to artists on the ground and on the internet. Just, you know, how do you handle these challenges? And I learned a little bit about how some of those artists are handling them now. And I also learned a little bit about art history, which I want to share with you. Some of you have heard me talk about Monet and the Impressionists and their art group before. By the way, I think Monet and the Impressionists is a great band name. So if you think that Monet and the Impressionists is a great band name, give me some love on Instagram, shoot me some hearts, or just, give me a pity laugh, either way. So Monet, he had a vision for his art, and we all know like Monet's art was amazing, it was groundbreaking, but at the time, the French Academy, they were in charge, thanks for the love, guys. Monet's work, the French Academy was like, no. We're definitely not recognizing this Impressionism stuff as legit art. It's definitely not cool. And so Monet got together with a handful of other people who were painting like him, some unknown artists by the name of Degas and Renoir, these people who didn't have any sort of reputation. No Name Monday is a song, that's great. And so Monet and these others got together and they put on their own show, right? And they didn't have the legitimacy of the French Academy. They didn't have the newspapers saying they were great, all that stuff. They just put on their own show. And unfortunately, for the Academy, the show was a big hit. And what happened was this art critic came to the show and he saw Monet's sunrise painting. And in this scathing review, he said, this isn't a sunset. This is barely an impression of a sunset. And Monet and the other artists grabbed that name and said, we're Impressionists. That's who we are. And this kind of thing, the Van Goghs, that's another good band name. This kind of thing where artists go off on their own, figure out how they want things to work and sell on their own, and then come back to the art world with a new concept. This kind of stuff happens over and over again. It happens with, I want to talk a little bit about, it happened with Picasso and Gertrude Stein. Picasso was off doing his own crazy thing, just kind of painting and making stuff happen and experimenting. But it wasn't just Picasso. It was lots of other artists in Paris were doing really interesting, innovative things. It was this crazy, concentrated amount of creativity where all these American artists were there, and not just painters, but like Hemingway was there. And they were all just super, super creative. And Gertrude Stein was this hub of this creative output. And they kind of put their own group together and made a thing. Tom Harold says, holy crap, you can buy prints of that Monet painting from JCPenney and Kohl's. Yeah, that's big. Then in 1913, at that point in 1913, American painters were not recognized as being as good as European painters. It was like Europeans are all the way up here and Americans are kind of down here somewhere, and then there's everybody else. And the International Exhibit of Modern Art happening at the Armory, or the Armory Art Show, came on. And the artists, they basically did the same thing that Monet and the Impressionists did. They put together their own show. They invited everybody to come out, and everybody saw these amazing American artists. And all of a sudden, the prestige of the American artists rose because these artists decided that they didn't need to get into a gallery with other European artists in order to be seen as legitimate. They just put their own thing together and really showed, hey, we are here and we are awesome. Then, of course, there's Damien Hirst and the Young British Artists, the YBAs. Nina Stanley says, no, Damien Hirst. You guys hate Damien Hirst so much. That's pretty funny. That's totally fine. Whatever your opinion of Damien Hirst is a brilliant marketer. So whether you like his art or not, brilliant marketer, he and the YBAs put themselves on the map, and they created a whole new art movement, right? Whether you think that's a good or bad thing for art history, time will tell. Apparently most of y'all don't like it, but that's okay. All right, so how do we create a new movement around what you all are doing? How do we make that happen? My answer to that is the internet. It's my totally biased answer, but my answer is the internet. And here's the reason why. the internet has created an incredible opportunity for all of us to create movements around whatever interests us, right? So when I was putting this training together, I asked people, okay, what are your favorite examples of people using the internet to collaborate together on stuff, on groups that previously had a hard time getting together? One that I love, some friends of mine have a child who has Down syndrome, and they were able to connect with other parents online who also have children with similar situations. Then they were able to, that way they were able to find out like, oh, this is normal, this is not, these are the doctors that are great, et cetera. And also normalizing the appearance of handicapped children in society. The internet did that. Dating, if you are somebody who, you know, if you're gay or if you're a minority or some other like marginalized group, finding somebody to date is actually a bit of a challenge. If you are a religious person and you want to find somebody else who shares your particular faith to date, that can be a challenge. So online dating certainly made that possible. One of my favorite examples on here that people gave me was Amanda Palmer's example. So Amanda Palmer is a musician. She independent musician for years, and then Kickstarter came along, and she did the first $1 million Kickstarter campaign. So she created this new movement on crowdfunding to have artists raise tons of money using the internet. Yeah. Amy says, with her very popular husband author. Yeah, but Amanda was famous and established in her own right before she met and married Neil Gaiman. All right. So if you are new here and you don't know who I am, I'll just tell you a little bit about about me. I'm Cory Huff, in case you missed it at the beginning of Nina says, I'm jealous, I wanted Neil. That's awesome. So I grew up, I was a child actor on the stage. I did The Wizard of Oz when I was like in 4th grade. So I grew up spending my life around artists and performers. And in 2009, I started a blog called The Abundant Artist. And initially it was just a way for me to explore and reach out to my creative friends and say, hey, how do you make a living from the thing that you do? Will you do an interview with me and let me share that with other people who read my blog? And so it was just a creative side project. And I was also learning and dabbling in internet marketing at the time. And fast forward to a few years, I am helping my friends sell their stuff. People are asking me to teach classes, and that's how The Abundant Artist came into being. Last year, in 2016, I wrote and published a book with HarperCollins called How to Sell Your Art Online. I love teaching artists how to sell their work, and I have a lot of fun with it. And you know, just to kind of give you an idea, the scope of the work that I do with some artists, Adam Hall is one example of an artist who came through our programs at The Abundant Artist. He was able to quit his job working at Whole Foods in 2014. And through our programs, he learned how to write and open up and connect with his audience. And he learned how to, he learned that it was okay, and in fact encouraged, to effectively work in a series, right? So a lot of the questions that are in there right now, that are over in the Crowdcast right now, are questions like, how do I sell my art? How do I get more attention to my work? How do I get people excited about what I'm doing? And one of the big challenges that a lot of early career artists have is working effectively in a series. So if you look up Adam's work, you'll see that he does a lot of his paintings are about scenes, buildings, and places in the city of New Orleans, because he grew up there. And he has a passion and a connection to the place. Sebastian says, what character was I in The Wizard of Oz? I was a munchkin. Of course I was a munchkin. I was in 4th grade. Come on, man. And recently, Adam had his first $12,000 month. So I'm super excited for him. Things are going really well for him. And his career continues to grow. And we've had lots and lots of artists like Adam come through our programs. But as much fun as this has been, as much fun as it's been to help artists sell their stuff, I can impart knowledge, I can encourage people, but there's always been sort of this missing element in what we do here at The Abundant Artist. And that element is accountability and community. So people will often say, you know, I'm so glad that I have this information, and I'm glad that I know what to do and how to do it, but I get discouraged. I get frustrated. I stop doing things because I don't have people to talk to about this, and I don't want to do it on my own anymore. And when I was first, when I first started The Abundant Artist, for the first couple of years, I had an email that went out to every single person who joined our mailing list saying, hey, what's your biggest challenge right now? And you know, everybody would say, my biggest challenge in selling art is figuring out like what to do, what actions to take. But then after that, the biggest challenge was, how do I find other people to connect with? How do I make the right connections to help move my career forward? And when I was a little kid, I used to play a game called Legend of Zelda. And when you first start the game out, you don't have any sort of weapons. You're just like this dude running around, and I think you have a shield, but you like don't have anything to protect yourself with or to fight with. And then you walk into this cave, and there's this old wizard, and he says, it's dangerous to go alone, take this. And this little pixel art Nintendo game. Such a popular game, so great. If you're looking for like an old school video game to get into, go play Legend of Zelda. So the sword that artists need to protect themselves and to move forward is community. This is a great, I love this photograph so much. John Partipolo is a photographer in Nashville, Tennessee, who took this photo. And John took this photo while I was in Nashville leading a workshop with a group called Nashville Creative Group. And you know, their group is just for people who live in Nashville, and they meet together once a month on, I think it's like the second Monday of each month, and they have a show and tell. They share their art with each other. They talk about what's working, what's not working, all that kind of good stuff. And they get 50 to 100 people to show up every Monday, or the first Monday of each month. Big props to Beth English for putting this community together. And I was so excited to be able to go out and talk to their group. And I led a weekend-long workshop, and then talk to their larger group on that Monday night. And people often ask me, how did she do it? How did she get a group that meets together like this so regularly? And if you ask Beth what she did, here's what she did. She said, hey, we're going to meet every Monday, or the first Monday of each month. Everybody come. And she invited her friends, and it started out with, 5 to 10 people, and they just kept doing it. And over the course of 5 years, they've grown the group to the point where 50 to 100 people show up every month. 5 years. That's what it takes. 5 years for you Instagram users. 5 years. And the other thing is their Facebook group has 5,000 members. 5,000 creatives, artists, musicians, other sorts of creatives who are getting together to talk about what it means to be a creative and an artist at this time period. So yeah, this community is just so awesome, and I love seeing what Beth is doing. So after visiting the Nashville Creative Group and visiting lots of other communities up and down the United States and Canada, I sort of taken away 3 things that successful artistic communities do in order to grow and flourish together. They share and collaborate, they're tide risers, and they have leaders. And I'll explain what I mean by that. I've been talking for half an hour, so I'm going to take a drink of water here. So, share and collaborate. Many of you are going to be familiar with this image. This is called Paramount by Warhol, Andy Warhol and Basquiat. Famous piece of art by 2 very famous artists, 2 geniuses. A lot of people say they're geniuses. This was, Basquiat approached Warhol and said, hey, would you like to do something with me? And Warhol was, he was famous. That's why Basquiat approached him. But they got together and they shared openly and they collaborated. And Warhol is famous for having his the factory, getting himself and other artists and all kinds of change makers and creatives together, and they would just hang out in his studio and do probably drugs, but also collaborating together. You don't need the drugs part, but you can collaborate together and make awesome stuff happen. And the successful artistic communities that I've seen, they are people who are doing interesting work, sharing it with others, and being open to the idea of collaborating. The second thing, tide risers. So rising tides lift all boats. So this is a concept that it's just an old saying, and the idea being that if a couple of people in a group succeed, then everybody else in the group will have their profile raised. And that's absolutely true. So the American Armory show is a great example of that. There were lots of artists that participated, a couple dozen artists that participated in the Armory show. And a few of those artists had phenomenal success. But if you were able to say, I showed at the Armory, even if you weren't as successful as those other artists, it still raised your profile. And this idea of community and working together, that raises the profile of every artist who's involved there. The third thing that successful groups do is they have leaders. Now, I love working with artists. I'm an artist. I'm a photographer and a performer. I'm not a painter, but as much as I love artists, y'all are like crazy about trying to like make sure that everybody's equal and make sure that nobody is in charge and nobody tells other people to do and nobody gets marginalized. And those are all great values. Like, we don't want people to be marginalized. But if you've ever tried to organize a group of people, a group of artists into doing something, this is the most frustrating part of it, in my opinion. But the successful artist groups that I've seen, they have leaders. Whether it's one person or a group of people, maybe 2 or 3 people in charge, somebody steps forward and takes charge and says, this is what we're doing. This is the vision. Y'all come along. So successful communities need leaders. Nina Stanley says, herding cats. Yeah. Matt Toller says, herding caffeinated cats. Oh, yeah. Julie says, I agree. There's a difference between leadership and organization and superiority and oppression. Yeah, absolutely. Herding cats on catnip. Okay. Y'all are getting a little out of hand. All right. So what I want to talk about for the next few minutes is something that I've been working on for probably about 6 months that I'm super excited about. If you want, you can take everything that we have talked about today, be a leader in your local community, get some people together, meet together once a month, do your thing, and over time, that group will grow if you are consistent. You can get your local artist association or whatever to focus on sales. Instead of doing 1 jury show a year, do 3. Maybe do 1 a month, something. Get your people to focus on selling their art rather than just making it better. Yeah. Sarah Marie on Instagram says, I started a secret artist meeting at work. I love it. Awesome. Good job, Sarah. That's rad. Yeah. John Retland. Oh, this is such a great example, John. So John Retland says, check out the YouTube video called Leadership Lessons from a Dancing Guy. It's the first followers that make a movement. Yeah, absolutely true. The leaders step out in front, and then when a few people like that leader's message and start following them, that's when movements are born. So what I've been working on for the last 6 months is called the Abundant Artist Association. And I'll tell you a little bit about it. Our goal for the association is to help artists make money, build community around them, and improve their own communities locally, access legal advice and health insurance, and advocate with governments and corporations for practices that are better for artists. And let me elaborate a little bit on what each of these things mean. So making money. We already do a lot of this at the Abundant Artist. If you're watching this, you're probably already familiar with the training programs we do to help artists learn how to sell their art. We also, within the association, we're also going to be bringing in some awesome, successful artists to talk about how they do what they do, and doing some monthly active challenges with those artists. We're also going to be focused on helping artists build community. So earlier on, Taylor mentioned that she connects more with artists in the UK. This is where the internet is brilliant, and I love it, because our community will be online with the eventual goal of helping create more local meetups wherever you are. Big flurry of hearts on Instagram. Thanks, y'all. So we have created, it's already built. We have an online community ready to go. It's private. It's only for artists who join the association. And the focus there will be on learning how to sell your work and build local community where you are. Legal and insurance. So I mentioned earlier that there's problems with legal advice, problems with copyright infringement, problems with health insurance. This is a big one. I know a lot of people are going to get super excited about this. We're going to be partnering with an organization called Nonprofit Lawyers for the Arts and some other intellectual property attorneys to create clinics, legal clinics, for artists to come and get their legal questions answered so that they can figure out what to do about their copyright situation. We also have partnered with an organization that consults with some of the largest companies in the world around health insurance. And we're going to be offering group health insurance discounts for artists. So if you're a part of the association, you'll be able to get group coverage just like any other organization. And the more people that join the association, the cheaper the health insurance will be. Obviously, the health insurance part is only for artists in the United States. We're not going internationally with that stuff yet, maybe next year sometime, depending on how things work. But I'm super excited. It took months of meetings to figure out how to get the insurance stuff in place. So like, super excited about that. And then the final thing, better practices. So we want to train our association members on how to negotiate, one, with gallery owners, so that the gallery owners and the artists both understand what a good business relationship looks like, negotiating fair commission rates, so that the gallery owner's happy, the artist is happy, everybody understands why the commission rates are what they are, and making sure that vanity galleries are not taking advantage of artists. And then the final piece of this will be corporate art sourcing. So we want to go out to, our team is going to go out on behalf of association members to these large organizations and say, hey, we noticed that you buy a lot of art. That's awesome. Thank you for buying art. We think that there are some things you can do to improve your sourcing so that you don't accidentally buy stolen art. And if you saw something like where Hobby Lobby just bought something like 5,000 illegally imported tablets, there is a huge need in the corporate world for an organization like this that they can partner with to make sure that they're not buying stolen art. Okay. So Matt Towler says, will details be sent later? I'm gonna walk through the details with you real quick, and then I'm gonna answer any questions you might have. My real goal here is for you, the artist, to be connected to an art community that thrives, rather than sitting alone in your studio and being frustrated. The association is $40 a month, and you can sign up at theabundantartist.com/association. If you don't like monthly plans, we have an annual price, which is $400 a year. Which saves you 2 months saves you $80 on the price. And on top of that, if you sign up before August 8th, that's 3 weeks from today, if you sign up for the annual plan before August 8th, then we are also going to give you access to all of our How to Sell Your Art online courses. So if you're familiar with our courses already, this will be super exciting, because you know that the How to Sell Your Art online courses are $300 each anyway. We do have a group discount, but it's still, you're getting $972 worth of courses for $400, plus you also get membership in the association with all of the stuff that goes along with that, which includes the master classes and challenges. And I'm going to tell you, we have an artist lined up for the first masterclass challenge in September, which I'll tell you more about in just a second. You'll also get an access to an online community exclusive to professional artists. So it's off of Facebook. It has its own app that you can download from the App Store, whether it's iTunes or Google Play or whatever. There's group health insurance discounts and legal advice. And then we also get an organization to advocate on your behalf and to help you figure out how to negotiate good contracts with your people. All right, so this is a pre-sale, right? Like, we have a lot of stuff done already, but this is a pre-sale. So all of the courses are already available. If you buy an annual membership, you get access to all those courses now. The community is ready to go. The app is ready to be downloaded. We're ready to invite you in there as soon as you sign up. We need to finish building out the back end of the site. We have a few pages that we need to add to the website to add all the challenge content and other content and materials for the association. Those will be ready by August 31st. And then we will be creating the insurance portal, which is a standalone website that you go to sign up for the health insurance options. We're hiring a third-party contractor to do. That should be done by August 31st as well. But I put anticipated here because I want to make sure that we're under-promising and over-delivering. And then we need to finish lining up our challenge and masterclass guest artists. So I know there's a few questions coming in. And something like Regina says, is this only for Americans? So the health insurance is only for Americans, but every other part of what we're doing is for any artist anywhere in the world. The health insurance stuff is the only thing that is for Americans only. The first challenge, which starts September 1st, is going to be with Gwen Seymour. Now, if you don't know Gwen, she regularly lands, $10,000 commissions. She's been a working artist for over 10 years. And we are going to do a challenge and lesson on how to land commission projects. And here's how the structure of the challenges is going to go. There will be beginner, intermediate, and advanced challenge activities that I'm super excited about. So the beginner, for the September challenge, the beginner activity is going to be to get you to go away from things like, hey, I accept commissions, and instead to creating a more specific, substantial experience that your collectors can look forward to. So saying something like commission a black and white ink portrait from a photo, or commission a colorful watercolor painting of a childhood dream instead of commissions accepted. For intermediate, so for artists who've already got that, we're going to show you how to reach out to the people who've supported your art in the past and get them to hire you for a commission. And for more advanced stuff, we're going to show how to research public art projects. People are asking, well, what does the community look like? So we're using, it's called Workplace, is the name of the app. And it's actually, Workplace is actually created by Facebook, but it's not Facebook. It's a completely standalone app. And it works just like Facebook. So you're already familiar with how to use the app. There's no learning curve. Basically, you download the app, and we have a bunch of groups in there already. And we're going to have monthly challenges in there. You can see from these screenshots that it works pretty much just like Facebook, but there's no friends, there's no family, there's no games, there's no business pages. It's just the Abundant Artist community in there. And you can see we've got a handful of groups in there already. Yeah, Sarah G says Workplace is really cool. It's very easy to use. Health insurance example. So here's a quick example. This is a sample quote only. This rate will not be for every single person. It'll be a little bit different for each person, but this will give you an idea that the rates for an individual, if you have no family, are around $300 to $400 per month. And the rates for artists plus their family will be $700 to $1,000 a month-ish. But that kind of gives you an idea. If you're purchasing plans on the open market, you know that it can be significantly higher than that. So keep that in mind. So the experience. Our goal, once you join the association, you head over to theabundantartist.com/association to join. Once you've signed up, there will be an onboarding call. We will shoot you an email with some different times for an onboarding call. You'll do a call with either me or another member of the team. And there will be small groups so we can answer all your questions about how the association will work, make sure that you got the app downloaded, make sure that you understand how to use the community. And then our goal during that onboarding call is to help you set and achieve an art business goal within the first month. So that might be something like get your first small sale on social media, or it might be set a goal to schedule a date with a gallery owner, or something like that. We want to make sure that you're setting and achieving goals every month. And then making sure that everybody who joins the community makes a real connection with at least 2 people within the first 2 months. If you're unfamiliar with me and the Abundant Artist, I just want to give you a little bit of an idea of what we've been able to help artists do in the past. Anita Nowinska is an artist who is she's awesome. So she came to me a year ago, and she didn't know how to sell her work. She was really struggling. She's got a child at home. And a few weeks ago, she did an invite-only weekend where for 3 days, she filled up her schedule with people who were interested in coming to her studio, looking at her work. And in 3 days, she sold every single piece of art that she had and made enough money to pay her expenses for the next 6 months. Angela Lyon took our course, took one of our courses a couple years ago, sold $12,000 of art in 3 months after taking the course. So I love seeing our artists succeed. We have a track record. So even though this is a pre-sale for the community, for the association, I am very confident that we'll be able to make this awesome. We already have, the Abundant Artist already has a community. We have a Facebook group for our students. It's only for our students. This association is what I wish that group was. And we have over 24,000 artists that are registered on our website right now. I want to make sure that we get a substantial portion of those artists into the association. Our goal is to make this association large enough that the art world has to pay attention to it and has to listen to us when we say, hey, this is what the individual working artist wants and needs from the art world. Yeah. So questions. I want to get to your questions. So I'm going to exit full screen here, and I'm going to pull up Crowdcast and look at some of the questions. I know that a lot of you upvoted a bunch of the questions that are in there already. So we're at an hour, and I told you that this broadcast would go for an hour. If you need to take off, yes, there will be a recording. If you registered on Crowdcast, there will be a recording. You'll be able to watch that. And what's the word I'm looking for? Otherwise, I'm going to stick around for as long as anybody wants and answer questions about the association. And yeah, we'll keep going. All right, so yeah, thank you. If you need to take off, feel free to take off, but I'm here to answer any questions that you might have. So on Instagram, if you're watching on Instagram, feel free to tune back in. My Instagram lives are limited to an hour. I'm gonna stop it and restart it because I've only got about a minute left, but I want to go ahead and answer everybody's questions. All right, so let's get to the questions that people have upvoted. And I want to get, so let's see. One person, okay, here we go. So Laura Bethman. Laura Bethman says, I belong to a small group of regional professional artists, but we're isolated from the community at large. We mainly discuss our artwork and individual accomplishments, which is valuable, but we'd like to grow our group and mobilize into the community at large, organize exhibits and other art-related community events. What steps do we need to take to become a vital part of our region? Where to begin? Okay, so Laura, there's a lot going on here, right? Like, how do you create a local group that will be successful? And I want to make my face here the major piece, and I'm going to shut down the secondary screen. Okay, so Laura, my recommendation would be to start with a focus on sales. Start with a focus on putting a show together, and I'm going to go live here on Instagram again. Start with a focus on sales. Schedule a juried show, and then go find some sponsors. Find banks, wine bars, fromageries, cheese shops, other places where people who tend to buy art, like places that those people interact with a lot, and schedule it for 3 months out, 3 to 6 months out, and get all of these sponsors to sponsor that event. And then do that regularly. Nothing will get your group better at selling than selling. And then if you have an additional thing that you want to do, an additional difference that you want to make in the community, whether it's getting more people to make art, or teaching children, or raising funds for some cause or whatever, have that cause be a part of that sales event. I don't love charity auctions for that kind of stuff. I think instead, it's pretty consistent that if people donate a portion of their income, whether it's businesses or individuals, if they donate a portion of their income on a regular basis, over time, they'll end up donating more to their cause than if they try to do individual fundraisers. Fundraisers are great, but build that mission into your organization. I gotta go back and stop answering. Okay, done answering. There we go. Nelson Ruger says, introverts unite. You have nothing to lose because you don't go anywhere anyway. What do you ask of the sponsors? This is a great question. So ask the sponsors, ask them to provide money, provide space, anything that you need for the event, try to get it from your sponsors. People love sponsoring art stuff. Okay. So the most upvoted question is this one. Start answering. So Ambika says, people appreciate my artwork, but I'm bad on the sale front. How do I improve financially? So Ambika, I don't know your particular situation, but I'll just say this. One, are you working in a series? Do you have a series of art that you are making that is around an idea or a theme? Are you responding to something that's happening in the world, or at least in your world? Are you doing things consistently around an idea or a theme? Two, how much time are you spending marketing your art? Now, you may have a day job that takes up a lot of your time, and you may not be able to spend as much time as you like, but the 50-50 rule applies. 50% of your time making art, 50% of your time marketing your art. And a lot of artists don't want to hear that, but that's the way that it works. If you go back and listen to our podcast at theabundantartist.com, and we always ask artists that question, how much time do you spend marketing your art? They all say at least half their time goes to marketing themselves. So go market your art. Tim says, I've worked to have over 600 followers on my Facebook page, 2,000 on Instagram, plus a website. I had pop-up shows and a proper gallery showing scheduled. My question is, how do I leverage these into a collector's market where people are repeatedly purchasing my work? Okay, so Tim, here's what I would say to that. All of that attention, the 2,000 Instagram followers and Facebook followers and all that good stuff, your sales are in your mailing list. So Instagram will make some sales for you, but if you want to be able to market to people consistently over time, you need to get them to join your mailing list. And so usually what I'll say is getting people to join your mailing list is key. So have something on your website that says, hey, join my mailing list and you'll get an inside peek at my studio. You'll get to know when new art is coming out, and you give some sort of free download, like get a free printable PDF of my work, and it might be just a little greeting card or a calendar page or something, just a little gift that you can give people for joining your mailing list. And then over time, over the course of weeks, months, years, as you consistently send out an email once a month, just letting people know what you're up to as an artist, that's where sales will come from. Building an art career is a marathon, not a sprint. And I see a lot of artists trying to quit their job and make it happen within a couple months. It almost never happens that way. We like to talk about those stories, but the reality is, for most artists, if you're doing all the right stuff, it's a 3 to 5 year process to grow your art sales to the point where you're financially viable. Yeah. Linda Urson says 50-50 is a lot better than 80-20 or 90-10. Yeah. Sometimes you got to spend more than 50% of your time marketing. But that's the way it is. Cindy says, will the association help us with how to establish a mailing list? Yes, absolutely. Levon says, just to know, I don't know if you're really pumped or really relaxed, but this is the funniest I've heard you be. Well, thank you. That's something, Levon, because you've been following us online for a long time. So I really appreciate that. I appreciate the feedback. Helen says, is it important to stick to one particular style or media? I work in fine detail watercolors and also large format canvas acrylic abstracts. Can I be successful in both styles? Helen, yes, absolutely. Whoops. I had to hit the start answering button. Helen, yeah, absolutely. If you want to work in different media, work in different media. The through line is not the media itself, it's the ideas, right? It's what is your art about? What is the emotion? What is the feeling? What is the idea? And you can talk about that idea or address that idea in multiple different media. So I don't think the media matters as much. Amy, hopefully that answers your question too. It's a very similar question. Let's see. Linda. Okay. How much should one think of spending, and is it useful? Facebook boosts, etc. What budget should one think of, and what should one boost? Okay. So Linda, for most companies, they try to spend 10% of their marketing budget, 10% of their revenue on marketing. That's just a general rule of thumb. If you are just getting started, you may not have enough revenue to follow that. And so I would love to see you can do a lot with $10 here, $20 there. The thing to use like ads and Facebook boosting for is to get people on your mailing list. That's how I would think about effective ways to use Facebook posts. And try little tests, like try this for $10 and see if it works. Try that for $10 and see what works. And experiment. Don't try to do the same thing over and over again. Gwen Maharg says, I'm so ready to sign up. Awesome. There is a new collective in Fort Worth that is doing a lot of this. Major changes in the art community in less than a year. Awesome. I hope we can collaborate with this association. I guess invite them all to join. Yeah, absolutely, Gwen. And I want the association to be to partner with lots of other local arts organizations. We want to have local meetups between us and other associations and just the artists that are part of this. So I would love to see you sign up, Gwen. You've been around for a while. Love to see you sign up, and I'd love to partner with your organization there in Fort Worth. John Delaney, yeah, that's a great way to put it. The tool isn't the important part of the art, it's the art itself. What message are you trying to relay? What emotions are you trying to communicate? Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Okay. So Liz, okay, let's start answering here. Liz says, I feel overwhelmed and paralyzed by the possibilities and the opportunities sometimes. The technology available to artists is amazing, and I feel lost in it, honestly. Would love to know what simple and successful step-by-step approach an artist can take to market solo or connected with others. Used to do craft shows, what's better? Okay, don't do craft shows. If you're a fine artist, don't do craft shows. Got that? Don't do craft shows. Do art shows. They're different audiences, different marketing. And yeah, there's a lot of tools. There's a lot of stuff that you can be doing. There's Crowdcast and Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and all kinds of stuff. You don't need it all. Pick one social media channel to market yourself on. If you're just getting started, probably Instagram. Have a very simple website. Sign up at squarespace.com. Create the easiest, simplest website that you can create. Have a couple of pieces of art, 5 to 10 pieces on your website, and then spend all of your time talking to people about your work. Don't try to play with tools. Talk to people about your art. Yeah. So a couple of people mentioned that in other industries, association fees for other industries are around $200 a year. Yeah, Julie, like for other associations, they charge less, some charge more. It depends on what you're doing. And I totally get where you're coming from. The reason that it's $400 a year is that's what it costs. And we're also including all of our courses with that. So you're not just getting the association membership, you're also getting the courses, and those courses cost $300 each. So in my mind, it's a great value. I totally understand if you can't do it, if it breaks the bank, that's fine. We also have the monthly membership, which you can cancel at any time if you can't do $400 up front. Okay, let's see. Karen, we kind of answered that already. We're gonna take some water. Let's see, a lot of similar questions. Oh, this is a good one. Okay, so Fiona Verdu says, I notice artists on Instagram building up to a particular day and time when one of their previewed works will be up for sale. The first interested buyer to DM them, to direct message them, gets the sale. Is this a sales tactic you would recommend for people with a small following who are really just starting out like me? Yeah, absolutely, Fiona. This can work really well. If you're small and you got less than 100 followers, you can absolutely do that. Give yourself a month, build up to a piece selling at that particular day. It may not work. It may not work, but you are, just by doing that, you are practicing the art of selling. You are grabbing attention and letting people know that you are serious about your stuff. And I often find that it works. Okay. Jackie Begg on Instagram says, I use blogging to talk about my art, but have a hard time driving Facebook likes to the blog. Thoughts on how to make that change? Jackie, just put your blog on Facebook. There's no reason to drive people from Facebook to your blog. Just put your blog on Facebook and use your Facebook marketing and your Instagram marketing, whatever, to drive people to your mailing list, which I talked about just a little bit earlier. Okay, great question from Heather. Says, is it possible to sell in a brick and mortar gallery as well as sell online at the same time, as long as pricing is consistent in all places? Yeah, absolutely, Heather. It's totally possible, but it depends on what that's what I'm looking for. It depends on the gallery. It depends on the gallery. Some galleries don't want you to sell online, and they feel uncomfortable if you're selling your work online. It is pretty common if you have some artwork under contract with a gallery and you sell it online, you should probably give them the commission anyway, because they are representing you and they are marketing you and it is under contract. But that's, that you'll have to decide for yourself whether or not you want to do that. But talk to your galleries about it in advance before you start selling your stuff online. All right. Tom says, I've just been queried about a large commission that is far bigger than anything I've done before. It's so big, I'd likely have to quit my day job to do it. I do not have a financial safety net. How do you know when you should quit your job? I believe this commission would cover 6 to 8 months of my income. Oh my gosh. Harold, that's awesome. So what you need is you need them to give you a deposit. You need to, you need them to give you a deposit. So it's very common to ask for 50% upfront or to ask for the whole amount upfront. If they balk at a 50% deposit, just be upfront with them and say, hey, in order for me to get this done at the time that you want it done, I'm going to have to quit my job, and I'm willing to do that, but I need you to front the money so that I know you're serious, so that I'm not taking such a huge risk. Yeah. Tina Stoffel says 50% up front. John Delaney says 50% up front. Laura says, see if you can get unpaid time off. Get 50% up front. If they're willing to do 50% up front, that's 3 months living expenses, and that's awesome. Sarah says, see if you can take a leave of absence from your job. That's great. Yeah. Okay. Cheryl Gordon says, it seems so redundant to post on Instagram and then share to Facebook. It's not redundant, Cheryl, because a lot of times people are posting in one place and then they're looking at one place but not in the other. And even if they see it twice, that's great. People need to be exposed to your art multiple times before they are going to follow through on a purchase. So go ahead and cross-post and do it multiple times. Yeah, and this is a good one. Tom Harold, Gwen Maharg says 50% up front and then 25% halfway through, 25% when it's done. Yeah. Yep. I'm super excited about this, Tom. I'm excited for you. I hope it works out. So again, if you want to sign up for the Abundant Artists Association, you head over to theabundantartist.com/association. Karen says, do most of you have separate personal and professional Instagram and Facebook accounts? So here, I think that it's possible to have too much separation. And I think it's also a lot to manage 2 Instagram accounts or 2 Facebook accounts. I think it's perfectly fine to share some of your own personal stuff on Instagram. Now, if all you're going to be doing is taking pictures of your kids and sharing that with your friends on Instagram, then don't post that stuff to your art Instagram. Instead, yeah, in that case, have 2 separate profiles. But if you want to show a little bit of your vacation or show a little bit of what you're doing outside of the studio to give people an idea of what inspires your art and what gets you excited, then yeah, I think it's perfectly fine to share that kind of stuff. So Tina says, does the association provide any individual coaching or just access to the course? So individual coaching for the association will be in the form of calls twice a month. So 2 times a month, we will have calls very similar to what we're doing now with Crowdcast, where we'll have people submit questions in advance, and we'll have at least one of those calls each month. We'll have a guest expert. So in September, when we do the challenges with Gwen Seymour, we'll have one call with Gwen where people can ask questions, whatever questions they want to ask in advance, whether it's about the coursework in the association or something else. And then Gwen and I will answer those questions just like we are now. And then on the other call, it'll be just me. And in the future, we will also have calls led by essentially other artists, senior artists in the association. Some of those calls will be led by just those artists. Yep. Jan Arbo, I'm assuming, says, we mentioned different levels for the challenges. Are you going to provide concrete points so that we know where we fit in? Yeah, absolutely. We'll have, so for the September challenge, for example, it'll be, if you have never booked a challenge before, or if you've never booked a commission before, do this. If you have booked a few commissions, but it's not consistent, then do this. And if you're already booking commissions regularly and you're trying to get your first like $10,000 commission, then do this. Sebastian Rango Art says, the community stuff is really important for sales too, right? Yeah, absolutely it is, because as we get to know other artists and work together to create a community of artists who are serious, people start to recognize the name of the organization. They recognize the shows that you do. And if you are associated, like if you, Sebastian, are associated with this other artist who's very successful, then both of you, your profiles raise because you're both growing and both being taken seriously by everybody. Jackie says, have to roll. Thanks for everything. Absolutely. Thank you very much, Jackie. Okay. Jasmine says, best to say prices of your work on Instagram or Facebook to put it out there, or does that look like a hard sell? I have no problem with a hard sell. Your sales style is going to differ a little bit for each person, but I think it's become perfectly acceptable and even expected for us to see your prices before we decide whether or not to move forward. Right? That's what e-commerce is all about, right? Like you go to Amazon, you can buy art on Amazon, and you see a $5,000 piece of art on Amazon and decide whether or not you want to buy it. I have no problem with putting prices on a website, but some people who are a little old school or older style think that you shouldn't put prices out until people inquire. I think that's a waste of everybody's time, because if you've got a piece that's $10,000 and somebody inquires about it and that $10,000 price point scares them off, you've just wasted everybody's time with that correspondence. Put the price out there, and somebody who has the money and isn't afraid of the price will contact you. Yeah. Let's see. Okay. Sweetie K. Lohani says, I'm new to the art world and I make acrylics, but I don't understand what kind of painting I should make as per market demand. Don't worry about what the market is doing, sweetie. Do what you want to do and find the people who are interested in the art that you make. Some artists will have huge followings. Some artists will only be collected by a very small niche group of people. Following what the market is doing will not change that. Because you are, like, if you try to do what other artists are doing, you're not them, and your work won't come across as authentic. Yeah. Kim says, what's the name of the organization? The Abundant Artist Association. Yep, absolutely. And it's at theabundantartist.com/association. John says, okay, John, here's what I'm gonna disagree with you a little bit here. Sometimes it hurts to put prices up because the more you become popular, raising prices might turn off somebody if they saw it listed as less before. That happens all the time. Companies raise prices all the time. And if somebody, like, if it's a big price jump, yeah, like somebody might get turned off because they can't afford it or don't want to pay for it. But if you raising your prices, people are just going to see that your work is more and more in demand, and they're going to understand that. Yeah. Amy says, do we talk about how to price in any of our classes? Yeah, we do. And pricing is really hard, Amy. So we end up talking about it a lot. You can see some good written stuff. We had a guest post from Melissa Dinwiddie. If you head over to theabundantartist.com/pricing, you'll see sort of our frame of reference for artists who are trying to figure out basic pricing. There's some good formulas there. Yep. Let's see. Maud says, how do I protect my art that is sent to print-on-demand companies? So you can't 100% prevent somebody from stealing your work. That's the way it works. So you have, if in the United States at least, you have copyright over your art just by the virtue of the fact that you created it. You want to register your work with the Copyright Office. It's like $35 to register your whole body of work. And at that point, once you've registered it with the Copyright Office, you can then sue for punitive damages if somebody steals your work. But you can't, and I wouldn't worry about it. Instances of theft are extremely rare in the aggregate. So don't worry about it, Maud. All right. Lots of similar questions. How do I convert likes into sales? You don't. You convert attention into your leads, and then leads into sales. Leads is getting people to join your mailing list. Let's see. Lots of repeat questions. Okay, such a great one. All right. John Delaney. I belong to an art organization that has volunteered so much that it is now expected by the community leaders. Yeah. I've brought the issue up, but it has fallen on deaf ears. I feel like we should be working on getting opportunities that pay. How do I get this point across? It's making it hard to get any paying job because of it. This is a great one, John. Stop doing stuff for free. Yeah. And get outside of your immediate community. So whoever your existing organization has been doing free work for, stop working with them and go find a new organization or a new community and work with them. That's what I would say to that. Because if you've already voiced your concerns with this organization and they're continuing to do free stuff, if you've already voiced your concerns, they don't care. So it's time for you to walk away. Tom Harold says, how do I refocus my audience? I have a lot of followers on Instagram who are nowhere near my ideal client, high school age people, for example. I don't think you need to, like, you don't want to get rid of your Instagram followers, or you could blow your Instagram account up and start a new one. A lot of those people are going to be like, they're going to be connectors. They're going to be people who get excited about your work and they give you likes and hearts and stuff and boost your visibility. But don't spend a ton of time interacting with them or pursuing them. Only spend time and energy pursuing people who are your ideal clients, and refocus who you have conversations with on your ideal collectors. So go back to figure out like who on Instagram, who on Facebook, who in the media influences your ideal collectors, Tom, and go have conversations with those people rather than just the people that follow you on Instagram. Hollycake 1970 says, regarding copyright, can you use words, phrases from TV or songs? Holly, I would say join the association and come to a legal clinic, because I can't answer that question. No, sorry. Yeah, John said, create a new organization that puts more focus on the improvement of artist careers. Yeah, or join my organization or our organization, and we'll help you organize a local group there. Yeah. Monica says, create a great crowdcast. I have to leave, but looking forward to your 2-day workshop in Raleigh, North Carolina in September. Awesome. Thanks, Monica. Let's see. Okay. Sierra, this is one of my favorite questions to answer. What does a new artist put on their bio or resume when there isn't anything to put yet? Nothing. You just put what you have. You can put your education. You can put, if you have your work showing in like cafes or galleries or restaurants or other stuff, you can put that on your resume, and that's just where you're at. You do whatever you have. But the second part of your question, I hear a lot of warnings from gallery owners about making sure that you participate in reputable events. Okay. Reputable is a huge problem in the art world, in my opinion. So you get a lot of organizations and events that are reputable, meaning they're famous and they're prestigious, but they don't actually do anything for you. So do some research when you're thinking about participating in an event. Look at what happened to artists who participated in previous events. Did they do well? Did they get sales out of it? Did the people have a good experience? Did the attendees and the other artists have a good experience by being part of the event? Is it just a vanity project? Is it something where everybody puts together a show and everybody shows their work and everybody gives each other a pat on the back, but nobody sells anything? And there's a lot of reputable events out there that are like that. So do your research and see whether or not there's a likelihood of your work getting any traction out of that. Tracy says, I've been pricing my artwork using the linear inch system. That's great, price per inch system. I have various styles all around a similar theme, pencil drawings, paintings. I would not change this by styles necessarily, Tracy. I think that, sure, like oil paintings have more prestige and they can be more expensive than pencil. I would literally just, you can double it, you can add 50%. however much more valuable or better you think it is. An oil painting is probably worth roughly 50% to twice as much as a pencil drawing. But that's just an arbitrary number. And what matters far more is what your customers are willing to pay. So hopefully that helps. Okay. So Bella Vine says, I've taken my art to galleries and museums, and they all tell me that I need to have a critic write about my art before it's considered for a show. How do I get someone to write about my art? Bella, where do you live? Because that's weird. That's a weird thing to have happen. You can go to the critics themselves and you can ask them to write about your work. That's fine. The other thing you can do is find a blogger somewhere on the internet who might be interested in writing about the kind of stuff you do and ask them if they'd be willing to write about it. That's what I would do. And then I would go find some other galleries and museums to show your work, because that's weird. Yeah, you live in Iowa? Yeah, that's really weird. Go look for galleries outside of Iowa. All right, let's see. Linda says, I'm creating a group with fellow artists, a Facebook group and a WordPress site. Anything make group artists financially successful is key here, for the group will dissolve soon. Linda, I think what you're trying to say here is you're creating a group with other artists and you're trying to figure out how to make sure that the group is successful. Linda, join our group and I'll work with you and help you figure out how to make that group successful. The other thing is focus on sales and give everybody in the group, be the leader, you're the leader, give everybody in the group specific tasks to do and give them deadlines to do it by and hold them accountable. And if they don't do the things that you've assigned them to do, then release them from the group and find other people. Karen says, I gotta go, but pretty much decided to join. Gotta sleep on financial decisions. Karen, I totally understand. No problem. We'll see you soon. Daniela says, what are your recommended networking strategies to create a community of artists big enough to make an impact, at least at a local level? So I talked about halfway through this presentation earlier, Daniela, about Nashville Creative Group. And what Beth did to create Nashville Creative Group is she just got a handful of her friends together and said, we're gonna meet, I think it's the first Monday of each month. And they just met every Monday. The first Monday of each month, and they did it consistently. And everybody in the group was free to invite people to come. And just that consistency and inviting people to come, you create a place where people expect to show up and people develop habits, right? And then you go out to gallery openings, you go out and meet other, art supply stores, wherever you go, and just talk to people and invite them to your thing. Hey, I've got a thing on, next Monday, come hang out. Mariana says, would I encourage artists to contact galleries in other countries? I live in Portugal. Yeah, absolutely, Mariana. Reach out to galleries in Spain, in the rest of Europe. Do your research and find the galleries that are similar to what you're doing. Find the galleries who sell work that is similar to what you do. But yeah, absolutely reach out. Eileen over on Instagram says, I've been doing crafts and vendor events, and I always bring my paintings and sculptures. Will that cheapen my work? The audiences for craft and fine art are different. Your fine art should be higher priced than your craft stuff. And, in the price anchoring strategy, like, you could have a painting and a sculpture there for $1,000, and then your craft work can be $100 or whatever. And yeah, that could absolutely give people some incentive and understand, hey, you may never sell a $1,000 piece, but you'll sell a whole bunch of the smaller pieces. And then every once in a while, you come across somebody who wants the more expensive piece. Okay, this is a great one. Wendy Wallace says, my studio is in a building housing a diverse collection of artists covering all scopes of creativity, ranging from painting, sculpting, and drawing to animation and illustration, and a whole bunch of other stuff. How can we organize in a mutually beneficial way? Wendy, great question. I would love to have you join our association and we can help you build out your association. But basically it's the same thing. It's find people to collaborate with, do something cool, do something that you can enjoy together, paint the puppets, or get the puppeteers to do a bit of entertainment before your art show, and do an open house once a month where people come in and see all of this insane creative energy, but do it regularly, meet regularly. If other people are going to participate, give them stuff to do and give them deadlines and hold them accountable. And if they don't follow through, then disinvite them. And it's just about consistency. Let's see. Okay, so Rochelle Valeri says, as a sub-question to Tracy's about linear inch pricing, what's your current knowledge or take about digital painting pricing versus traditional media pricing? So right now, digital painting is seen as a little bit less. If you're talking about doing a digital painting and printing it out, assuming that it's printed on archival canvas and done with high quality inks and all that good stuff, then I would probably just price it like you would price a print of a painting, so price it at a couple $100 or something. That's what I would do. Michael says, do you think call to entries that ask for fees to submit are a waste of money? Oh, that's such a fraught question, Michael. So fees for entry, like the organizing body needs to cover their costs. So that has to happen. Look at previous editions of the show. What happened to the people who entered the show before? Look at previous, like, artists who've submitted to the shows before. Is your work a good fit? Is it better than that? Is it worse? And see if it's a good fit. I think getting a couple of shows under your belt can be really helpful. But beyond that, I don't think it's necessary to do more than 2 or 3 of these curated shows. Otherwise, you waste a lot of money. So I'm going to wrap up here in a second. There's some questions that we didn't answer, but a lot of them are just repeats. So hopefully we're answering most of your questions. Marini, I do want to make sure that I address Marini's questions. So Talent Oregon is trying to organize a maker city. I believe they're trying to find a physical hub right now. Marini, if you watch this and watch this answer, please contact me. I definitely want to get down to Talent and check out what's going on there. Let's see. Okay. So Bob Rivera says, do you know of any groups in Southern California I could hook up with to showcase my art? Yeah. So Bob, if you join the association, we're gonna actually make a list of all of the regional associations that everybody in the group is a member of. So I'd love to have you in there. And as Wendy Wallace said, you can search for the town you live in plus art association. California is full of art associations, so go check those out. Cheryl Brown says, been a fabulous call. I've been following you for years. Hey, Cheryl, good to see you. Let's see. Josh Wallace Art over on Instagram says, is it advisable to put copyright watermark on each photo of my artwork before I post on social media? Yeah, just put a little copyright watermark with your signature on there. That's fine. Looks like we've had a few signups for the association. Super excited about that. I won't read off names, but I'm excited that people are signing up. I'm excited that you all are here. We're going to wrap up. But again, thank you so much for taking the time. I know I'm tired. You're probably tired. It's been an hour and 40 minutes already. But again, thank you so much. If you're interested in signing up for the association, head on over to theabundantartist.com/association. And thanks again so much for signing up, and we will see you soon.